do kind of like recent things I've been delving into recently that I've enjoyed. I'm still gonna do this more in the reference to like my media consumption. So I just have watched a couple of TV shows that I've been really enjoying. I've listened to a couple of audiobooks that I've really enjoyed, and I've recently started playing a new game with my husband, my father-in-law, and my father, and I've been really enjoying that. So I just kind of want to share the love because these are things that I'm really enjoying and I think a lot of other people could enjoy too. So I'll talk about the TV shows first. One is I got a digital copy from my father. I believe it originally aired on HBO. It's the Chernobyl series. It's a 5 or 6 episode miniseries about the Chernobyl power plant and the MKV reactors during the late 80s in the USSR. And just kind of the fallout, what happened at the plant. And it dives a little bit into like the politics of what's going on. It is absolutely horrifying, but incredibly interesting. And having read Midnight in Chernobyl by Adam Higginbotham, I think it was in November-ish, I really, really wanted to watch this because of that, and I personally am really enjoying it, and I know my husband, who's watching it with me, is enjoying it, but I think he's being hit a little bit harder, at least in the first few episodes he was, just because of the amount of, like, gore and illness, and I don't know if he was necessarily prepped for that, but if anybody's, like, interested in Chernobyl and is wanting to learn more, this is definitely, like, a really good option. The second show I'm going to talk about is changing pace quite a bit, and it's called Invincible. It's an Amazon Prime exclusive, I believe. And the premise of the show is you're following this boy who's like the son of that world's like Superman, essentially. And just like some weird shit is going down, and superheroes are a big deal, but like the main superhero group is gone, and you're like, you don't know what's going on with the other heroes that you're meeting, and you're not sure what's going on with Mark, and you're not sure what's going on with his dad, or like their relationship. It is super gory, super adult. The animation style is really cute though, like it reminds me of comic books quite a bit, just in terms of the lining and the color palettes, and some of the designs in them, but if you're looking for like a comic book feel that's directed at a specifically adult audience, it's definitely something to try. I feel like I'm not doing it justice explaining it here, but it's quite good and I really recommend it to people who enjoy that genre. It reminds me a little bit of The Boys and the Watchmen, just in terms of the overall tone of some of what's going on. And that's the few TV shows I'm watching right now that I'm just really, really enjoying. So I'll talk about, I think it's 3 audiobooks I have here. Okay, 2 audiobooks and one that I did audiobook in my own copy. The 2 audiobooks I've listened to recently are The Flood in the Valley by Rebecca Mahoney and Hooked by Michael Moss. They're very different books. The Valley and the Flood is like, I would argue that it's more of a contemporary book, but it uses magical realism to explore PTSD and grief. And I found it to be a very compelling story. I don't believe it was very long, but it was quirky and cute, and I just really loved the story of the main character and how she was talking about she was having issues with, and just they were pretty sensitive about it, I think. And I just really appreciated what the book did and how it did it. I've read a few reviews on it, and I know a lot of people say that a lot of the characters feel like cardboard cutouts. And I can see where they're coming from. Like, they are pretty stereotyped, and not all of them are super dynamic. But they fit the roles they've been given really well and really aid in the telling of the story, in my opinion. The next one was Hooked by Michael Moss. This is a nonfiction that kind of explores food, our addiction to it, and how the food giants kind of play into that. like Pepsi and Nestle and like those companies. It was very, very interesting. Like, the book does a good job of not really like chastising or haranguing the reader who as a or the consumers, but they do critique the food giants a bit without being but the thing I appreciate is that it explores all of this without being preachy about it. And I learned a lot, and the audiobook was just very easy to listen to. The words flowed really well, and the narrator was really good. Yeah, there's really not too much to say about it there. Other than like if you're interested in that kind of thing, I think that's a really good resource. It doesn't really give you too much like directed information, but it kind of talks through like what exists in that world and how everything ties together. The third book, like I said, I listened to it and read my copy, and that was I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. This is, as many of you I'm sure are familiar with, a true crime book that was published and somewhat written posthumously by the author Michelle McNamara. She passed away in her sleep at the age of 46, but she had spent a good deal of her adult life following the East Area Rapist, or she dubbed him the Golden State Killer. And he was very active in the 1970s and 80s, and part of the issue was that he was just very prolific. I think they said they had 40 known cases of burglary and rape, or burglary, rape, and murder. The reason I picked this up is because I recently remembered they found the guy a few years back with using some DNA sequencing techniques and using like 23andMe, I think it was, like a relative of his that was close enough, did the test, and they flagged it, and they did forensic profiling, or forensic ancestry, I think is what it was, to get that. As an adult, have discovered that I do enjoy some true crime, and as a result, I had been listening to a lot of podcasts, and I had just kind of started petering out of those podcasts when the Golden State Killer was found. And so this was just to kind of fill myself in on the case and see what else is going on. It was very well written. It was very strange because everything was prefaced with, she was writing, this is what we've pieced together from blank, blank, and blank. And it's really weird to read someone's magnum opus that wasn't necessarily written by them, but it was still interesting. Like, I still enjoyed it, and if you like true crime, it's worth picking up. And now I'll move on to my last item on the agenda, and that is the video game that I've been playing recently with my father-in-law, and husband. We play every Sunday for like 8 hours, and we just recently started playing a new game. It's called No Man's Sky. And I know for those of you familiar with, are probably like, No Man's Sky? That sucker came out like 3 or 4 years ago, and it was terrible! And it was. But since it was launched, Hello Games really just kind of put their head down and pushed through, and is giving the game everything they promised when they were doing the publicity for it. And so they just recently overhauled the missions to make them more like satisfying. They had a patch update come up a month ago that lets you tame animals on the planets and have them as pets. You can garden if you have a base. You can own a frigate, or you can own frigates to protect a freighter if you have a freighter. Like, there is just a lot going on in the game now, and we're having a lot of fun exploring the planets, finding downed spaceships that we either take back and scrap or fix and create as working ships for ourselves. It's just been a wild ride, a little frustrating. I know in particular my dad is a little bit older and has old man reaction times. And my husband's father sometimes won't realize that he's facing a wall. He just thinks that he's lost us. So, like, largely it's a little funny. but it can get a little frustrating with them. But if you enjoy like exploration crafting games, this is definitely one to try now. Like, they've really put a lot of work into it, and I'm just incredibly satisfied with the product they have right now, and they are constantly improving it, which is always wonderful to see. And that's really just some fun little things that I've been enjoying lately that I haven't necessarily and won't necessarily have a chance to talk about on the channel, just because it's not in any of my scheduled videos. So I'll leave it there. I'll leave you there. Comment below if you've read any of these books, you've played that game, or you've watched those shows. I want to talk to you guys about them. And with that, I will see you in the next video. Peace.